South Carolina is doing something right now that almost no other state is doing. Its home prices have gone flat and even slipped back a little this year at the very same moment that billions of dollars in brand new factories are landing on its soil. Across the whole state, the typical home is worth about $308,000, and over the past 12 months, that number has crept upward by only about 0.5%, which is really just another way of saying it has barely moved at all. Sit for a second with how strange that combination is. Everywhere you look across this state, enormous plants are going up in flat fields that were growing soybeans just 2 summers ago, backed by billions of dollars and thousands of jobs, and the small towns sitting right next to them haven't moved in price yet. That gap right there, the paycheck already arriving while the price is still standing still, is the entire idea of this video. We're counting down 12 South Carolina towns that are about to blow up, the ones where an ordinary buyer can still get in before the crowd figures it out. Now, I'll be straight with you up front, the way this channel always tries to be. The jobs are real and easy to prove. Whether those jobs lift the price of these particular houses is the bet you would be making, and I'll show you where that bet looks the strongest. One town on this list just landed a factory bigger than the town around it. Another became the site of the largest single deal in the history of the state. Stay to the very end, because the town sitting at number 1 is the clearest case of the whole bunch. Number 12 is Conway, sitting just inland from Myrtle Beach up in Horry County. While the beach itself has grown expensive and crowded and loud, Conway is the older, quieter river town tucked in right behind it, and the typical home here still runs under about $285,000. And this past year, it even slipped a touch rather than climbing. And here is what makes it worth a look. Horry County has been one of the single fastest growing counties in the entire United States, and all those people pouring in for the beach economy need somewhere they can actually afford to live and raise a family. Conway sits only about 15 minutes from the ocean without the oceanfront price tag, built along the tea-colored black water of the Waccamaw River under some of the oldest live oaks in the state, with a walkable little historic downtown that has slowly come back to life, and Coastal Carolina University growing steadily just up the road. The people who tend to buy first in a town like this aren't the seasonal beach workers. They're the school teachers, the nurses, the young families, and the small landlords who want to own near the coast while the door is still open. As the beach keeps filling up and pricing regular people out, that pressure has to roll somewhere, and it rolls inland. You're not buying the boom itself here. You're buying the older town just behind it, the one the growth reaches next, and around here, that town is Conway. One quick note and then I'll drop it. All the numbers I pull for these videos, the plant announcements, the job figures, the town-by-town prices, they live in a guide and a calculator we put together called the South Carolina Reality Check. It's linked below if it's useful to you. Now back to the countdown. Number 11 is Bluffton, over in the Lowcountry right near Hilton Head. Bluffton has been one of the great retirement magnets in the whole Southeast for years. All live oaks and marsh views and sprawling master plan communities like Sun City and Palmetto Bluff that were built specifically to catch people moving down for the warm weather and the salt air. The typical home here has climbed up near $493,000, and this past year it actually cooled off a little, slipping about 2%. So what's a pricey, already discovered town doing on a list about getting in early? Because Bluffton shows you the finished version of exactly what the cheaper towns on this list are trying to grow into. The buyers here are mostly retirees arriving with cash from a house sold up north, and they keep coming in a steady stream. The Lowcountry isn't making any more marshfront, and a small dip after years of steady climbing is the kind of pause that, down here, hasn't historically tended to last very long. So if Bluffton itself has already climbed clean past your number, don't simply take it off your screen. Let it stand as the ceiling, the price these cheaper towns are quietly climbing toward, and let it point you one town over toward the places still wearing last decade's price tags. Keep that ceiling in mind, because almost every other town on this list is aiming straight at it. Number 10 is Fort Mill, up on the North Carolina line in York County, and I'm putting it right here in the middle of the countdown as the warning label for this entire list. Fort Mill is what priced out looks like once it is already finished happening. Sitting just across the state line from Charlotte, it became the town where Charlotte's high earners moved to escape North Carolina's income tax, because South Carolina doesn't reach into their paychecks the same way, and the home prices came right along with them. The typical home in Fort Mill now runs past $530,000, and this year it's finally easing back by a couple of percent, because it has started to run out of buyers who can still reach it. On top of the price, the local school district now charges an impact fee of nearly $30,000 on every new house that goes up, a cost the older, cheaper towns further down this list simply don't carry yet. The families who bought here 6 years ago, back when Fort Mill looked exactly like those cheaper towns look right now, a quiet, affordable place with a big city next door, are the ones sitting on a small fortune today. That's the whole promise of this list captured in a single town. Except in Fort Mill, the window has already closed. Keep it in your mind as the before and after picture while we count down the towns where that window is still wide open. Number 9 is Rock Hill, just a few exits back down the interstate from Fort Mill, and it's the still affordable answer to it. Same Charlotte access, same missing state income tax, pulling those North Carolina commuters across the line, but the typical home runs closer to $393,000 instead of over $500,000, which is roughly a $140,000 difference for the very same drive to the very same city. Rock Hill has Winthrop University anchoring it, a genuinely revived downtown district they call Knowledge Park, and the wide Catawba River running right through the middle of town. It also carries a cautionary tale worth knowing before you fall for any glossy headline. A few years back, the Carolina Panthers announced an $800 million headquarters right here in Rock Hill, and then the whole project collapsed in the middle of construction in 2022 and ended in a lawsuit and a settlement, leaving a huge riverfront site sitting empty. It's a hard reminder that not every giant announcement actually comes true, and it's a reminder that's going to matter again by the time we reach the very top of this list. But even with the Panthers long gone, Rock Hill still has the one thing that really drives a market like this, which is honest proximity to a booming city, sold at a price that still sits well below its expensive neighbor up the road. Number 8 is Aiken, over on the Georgia line, and Aiken's catalyst is the one hardly anyone stops to think about, which is the federal government itself. Just outside of town sits the Savannah River Site, an enormous nuclear facility, and it's ramping up right now for a major new mission, manufacturing the plutonium cores, the pits, that sit at the heart of the nation's nuclear weapons. The workforce out there is climbing from around 13,000 people towards something closer to 18,000, and the site's own leadership, its chief executive, Dennis Carr, has openly warned that within a couple of years there could be 5,000 construction workers pouring into the area, every one of them needing somewhere to live. The typical home in Aiken still sits under about $267,000, which makes it the most affordable metro on this entire list. And over the past year, it has ticked up about 2%, while much of the rest of the state stood still. And it's a beautiful place, an old winter colony horse town with brick-paved streets and long shaded riding lanes and grand homes from a wealthier age. The buyers moving that market aren't the beach crowd or the retirees, they're the engineers and the federal contractors and the construction crews chasing a mission that runs for decades. A hiring surge that large, pointed straight at a town that affordable, is the kind of steady pressure that moves a housing market. And unlike a car plant chasing a fickle car market, a federal defense mission doesn't rise and fall with the housing cycle. Number 7 is Hardeeville. Back down in the Lowcountry in Jasper County, and it may well be the single fastest growing town on this entire list. It has more than doubled in size since just 2020, and the reason is a whole wave of enormous new communities being built for people moving south. There's a $300 million development called Carolina Station going in from the big national builder D.R. Horton, with thousands of homes planned, a Latitude Margaritaville retirement community with the Jimmy Buffett name stamped right on it, and a giant Buc-ee's travel center pulling everyone off the interstate, all of it sitting right where Interstate 95 crosses into the Hilton Head and Savannah orbit. There's even a long-running plan for a brand new deep-water port down here, the Jasper Ocean Terminal, sitting on the river between Savannah and Charleston, that would pour another wave of port and logistics jobs into the county for decades if it's finally built. That single possibility is a big part of the long game here. The idea that Hardeeville isn't just a bedroom community for retirees, but a future working town with a harbor of its own. Hardeeville has become the affordable front door to that whole expensive Lowcountry, the last place you can still buy your way into the marsh and the mild winters without paying full Hilton Head money for the privilege. In fact, it's growing so fast that the biggest risk here runs almost opposite to the other towns on this list. The danger that so much gets thrown up so quickly that the supply of new homes catches right up with the demand and holds the prices down. But the buyers keep coming, mostly retirees and remote workers moving down from colder states. And for now, the whole corner of the coast is simply cheaper to enter through Hardeeville than through anywhere else around it. Number 6 is Summerville, just up the road from Charleston, and specifically the giant Nexton community that has risen up there. Nexton has become one of the very top-selling master-planned communities in the entire country, moving more than 500 homes in a single recent year, with its own town center, a Publix grocery, and a brand new middle school opening its doors this very fall. One of its senior leaders, a man named Brent Gabodlo, has described it less as a subdivision and more as a small city being built all at once. It sits at the northern edge of the booming Charleston metro, close enough to ride the whole region's economic wave, far enough out to still be reachable on price, with a typical Summerville home sitting in the high 300s. And what you have to understand about the Charleston area is this. It has the deep water port, the manufacturing, the tourism, the history, and the food. And it has been drawing new people and new companies steadily for years with no real sign of slowing down. The families buying into Nexton are largely transplants and transferred workers who want the Charleston region without the downtown Charleston price, and there are enough of them right now to sell out entire neighborhoods before they're even finished. Summerville is simply where a great deal of that growth has decided it can actually afford to live, poured into concrete out of the flat pine woods. Number 5 is Greer, sitting right in the middle of the Upstate, exactly between Greenville and Spartanburg, and Greer might just hold the best single location on this whole list. This is the home of the largest BMW factory anywhere in the world and the inland port that feeds it, moving shipping containers by rail straight up from the coast without ever touching a highway. It's the beating heart of the entire Upstate's manufacturing and logistics engine, and it has been one of the fastest growing cities of any real size in the state. The typical home in Greer still sits around $343,000, which for the literal center of the region's job machine is a real honest value, especially when nearby Greenville has been climbing at around 3% a year, and its own homes now sell in a matter of days. The BMW plant alone employs something on the order of 11,000 people, and it anchors a whole web of parts suppliers and trucking firms that hire thousands more. Greer has a charming revived downtown they call Greer Station, the main regional airport right there, and tens of thousands of good-paying manufacturing jobs within a short drive in every direction. The people buying here are the plant engineers, the supplier managers, and the logistics staff who move in with a company transfer and a salary already in hand. which is exactly the kind of buyer who quietly firms up a market from underneath. And you can still buy in the mid-300s, standing right in the middle of the place where all of those paychecks are being written. Number 4 is Woodruff, a small old textile town just south of Greer in Spartanburg County, and Woodruff is the genuine sleeper of this whole list. It was recently named the single fastest growing city in the entire state of South Carolina, growing by around 17% in one stretch and very nearly doubling off a tiny base of only about 4,300 people. And the reason is sitting right there at the edge of town. BMW built a brand new battery assembly plant here in Woodruff, part of the company's $1.7 billion push into electric vehicles in South Carolina to build the batteries that go into the very first fully electric BMW vehicles ever made in America. And yet, because Woodruff began life as a sleepy little mill town, that time mostly forgot, the typical home here is still under about $287,000, well below its bigger upstate neighbors just up the road. A name brand battery plant now carries the town's own name, while the price of a house in it still reads like the quiet mill town Woodruff was for 50 years. That's the exact gap this whole countdown is built to find, and the next 3 towns show it at an even larger scale. Number 3 is Moncks Corner, the county seat of Berkeley County just north of Charleston. And to really understand it, you have to look at the county exploding all around it. Berkeley County has become the single biggest manufacturing magnet in the whole state. Volvo built its first American car plant just down the road and is retooling it to turn out electric vehicles. A major steel operation is expanding its lines with hundreds of millions of dollars of new investment, adding furnaces and hundreds of jobs of its own. And a battery campus so enormous that we have handed it its very own spot on this list is going in one town over, coming up in just a minute at number 2. Moncks Corner is the older established town sitting right in the middle of all of it, and its population has jumped from around 13,300 people to well over 20,000 in only 5 short years. A typical home here still runs in the mid-300s, out on the edge of the wide open water of Lake Moultrie, inside easy commuting range of the tens of thousands of new manufacturing jobs landing all around it. And this is the part that people miss about a town like this. The workers on the assembly line don't have to be the ones buying these houses for the prices to move. It's the transferred plant managers, the process engineers, the visiting contractors, and the landlords snapping up homes to rent out to everybody else. And in Berkeley County right now, there are suddenly a great many of all 4. Hold on to that idea, because it hits even harder one town over at number 2. Number 2 is Ridgeville, and the sprawling Camp Hall industrial park around it, out in that same Berkeley County growth machine. And this is where the single biggest dollar figure on the entire list comes down to earth. Redwood Materials, the battery recycling company started by one of the original founders of Tesla, is building a $3.5 billion campus right here. $3.5 billion, the largest economic development project in the recorded history of South Carolina, and its first operations already fired up at the very end of last year, so this one is real and running, not a promise on a poster. 1,500 jobs are coming over the next decade, real jobs paying anywhere from $27 to $75 an hour, the kind of wages that let a household step up from renting to owning. And Ridgeville, at this very moment, is still a small rural crossroads sitting out in the Pine Flats, the kind of place where land is cheap and the houses are few and far between. That's the pure definition of getting in early. A multi-billion-dollar campus rising up out of the ground beside a little town that has never been anything but quiet farmland in living memory. The only reason Ridgeville lands at number 2 and not number 1 is that its jobs spread out across a huge county campus rather than dropping straight into the middle of one small, buyable town. And for that, we go up to the Midlands. Number 1 is Blythewood, just north of Columbia in the Midlands of the state, and it earns the very top spot because it's the cleanest, purest version of this entire idea that exists anywhere in South Carolina right now. Blythewood is a small, pleasant town of only a few thousand people, close enough to Columbia that homes in the capital nearby are already selling within a matter of days. And Scout Motors, a revived classic American truck brand backed by the deep pockets of Volkswagen, is building a $2 billion factory right there on more than 1,000 acres inside the town limits themselves to build electric trucks and sport utility vehicles. $2 billion, 4,000 permanent jobs, and then, announced just last fall, a $300 million supplier park going up right on top of that, bringing close to another 1,000 jobs with it. This isn't a rumor, and it's not a press release that might fall apart next year. It's under active construction right now, today, with the first vehicles planned to roll off the line in 2028, and the company's chief executive, Scott Keogh, has staked his name on that timeline. And this is the part that makes Blythewood the clear number one buy. Despite a $2 billion plant and something like 5,000 jobs going up inside its own town limits, the typical Blythewood home still sits at only around $345,000. And it barely moved at all this past year, creeping up about 0.5%. The plant is already here, the jobs are already coming, and the price has simply not yet turned around to face any of it. The people who will actually bid these homes up are the ones Scout is already relocating in: the plant executives, the engineers, the supplier managers, and the contractors building the thing, not the hourly line workers. And they arrive with salaries in hand and a lease running out. Now, a fair and honest word of caution, because this channel doesn't sell fairy tales. Not every South Carolina mega project actually comes true. Up in Florence, a big battery plant was announced with real fanfare and then paused. Down in Rock Hill, as we already saw, the Panthers deal collapsed completely. Announcements can and do die, and even the real ones may take years longer than promised. So this is a bet, not a sure thing, and you size it like one. But a $2 billion factory that's already pouring concrete into the ground, standing in a small town whose home prices haven't budged an inch, is about as close as this whole game ever lets you get to seeing the wave before it breaks. In Blythewood, you're standing in a town of a few thousand people that's about to become a factory town of the American future, and the price tag on the front door still reads like nobody living there has quite noticed yet. So that's 12 South Carolina towns with the paychecks already landing and the home prices still catching their breath. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these towns would you actually put your own money on, and which one did I leave off the list? Someplace near you where the cranes are already up, but the market hasn't noticed a thing yet. Tell me all about it down in the comments. And if you want to see the exact other side of this same story, the South Carolina towns where the big employer already packed up and left, and the home prices fell straight through the floor, that video is waiting for you right there on the screen.